As we reflect on 2 years of the In the House podcast, Michael and I discuss how our faith impacts our values in the construction industry. We talk about being good stewards of the client's resources and how having a servant's heart can enhance your business. Finally, we recap these 2 years by reading a quote from the very first episode, The Man in the Arena. We hope you enjoyed this episode. If you do, please share the podcast with a friend. Thanks for listening. Upgrade your construction layouts with Trademarks. These heavy-duty vinyl markers are designed to withstand harsh job site conditions. They're durable, waterproof, and perfect for marking locations for electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and more. Available in trade-specific colors, Trademarks make communication with your team simple, professional, and reliable. Whether you're recording benchmarks, elevations, or center lines, Trademarks ensure your layouts stay intact, even under heavy traffic. New customers enjoy 15% off at checkout. Visit trademarklayout.com to get yours today.
Well, I wanted to thank you, Michael, because I haven't really addressed it yet, but you're co-hosting the podcast with me now, so I appreciate that.
Thanks.
And I wanted to, put that out there and kind of bring it up because, I think it deserves more recognition than what it's gotten so far, which is 0. But I think it's great. I like having your thoughts and opinions on things, especially with the skill set that you have and your background being much different than mine. And, I think you bring a unique character and process, thought process to the podcast that I couldn't bring. So,
thanks, man.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate your willingness to, put up with me and
I'll translate Lonnie.
Yeah.
To other people. No, hey, it's been awesome. I really have enjoyed, talking with you and everyone we have on the show so far, and
more to come,
man.
Yeah,
first 50. Here's the second 50.
Yeah, I think May. Oh shoot, are we in May?
We're in May.
Oh dang it!
Yeah,
so it's been 2 years.
Years flying.
It's officially.
2 years.
I think the first.
That is awesome.
I think the first one was released. I think beginning of May. I'll have to look. So I think officially it's been 2 years.
So reflecting on 2 years, what? Looking back, I mean, is there anything, what stands out? Is it certain episodes? Is it kind of things you learned? How you kind of what's been the...
Yeah, I think what my biggest takeaway is, what really interests me are just the numerous infinite pathways that you could take to kind of all end up in the same location.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you and I come across some pretty amazing people every day, really amazing craftsmen, talented designers and architects and project managers. I mean, it kind of runs the gambit on everybody that's involved, and everybody's background is so unique. And it's like the more you talk to some people, it's like, their background is they're more than just a mason, or they're more than just a drywall guy or a carpenter. It's like they have this whole unique history of I started in this industry and then I went to here and then here and here and now I'm all of a sudden I'm in this and that to me is really cool. I don't know why that's just really interesting. All the different stories and pathways that kind of all converged and happened. They all happened the way they happened, and now we're all somehow here together working on this job.
Yeah.
And everybody has this unique skill set that they bring. And so I think it's kind of cool as a project manager to be able to, maybe tap into some of that and get some of somebody's past experience and bring that to light and say, hey, you might just be a carpenter, you might just be a drywall guy, but you used to do this. Could I get your input here? Or hey, maybe let's expand your scope a little bit to include this.
100%.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of rambling now, but that's kind of what I've come to learn is just what's interested me and why I want to continue is just, everybody's got a really cool background and, and you can definitely bring some really valuable lessons to the construction industry, no matter where you've come from.
The days that I've regretted the most in my job have been when I focused too much on the tasks at hand.
Yeah.
And kind of missed opportunities for relationship, whether it's getting to know someone or just not engaging with them. And either way, the work still gets done.
Right.
But those days, I'm like, oh man, there was a story there that I didn't ask about that I bet's awesome.
Yeah, that's true. Like they might sprinkle in a little bit of information that you might otherwise not know about until you probe a little bit more.
Yeah,
because that's true. I mean, the construction industry is it's reliant upon relationships, very heavily.
100%.
I mean, you couldn't do anything if it wasn't for the relationships that you've built throughout the years, and the people that you work with, and friends that you make along the way.
Yeah.
So it's fun. I mean, it's a great industry, and I would encourage anybody to get into it. I mean, you never know where you're going to end up. You never know the people you're going to meet and the amazing projects that you get to be a part of, and it's fun.
I was talking with a carpenter the other day, and we got to talking about a certain type of wood that he was using, and I've got one of my guitars is made out of this stuff, and it might have been spruce. I think it was a spruce. I can't remember. I think it was spruce, and I was like, oh really? What? Asked a little bit more about. Well, do you got any picture of your guitars or something like that? Turns out this whole collection of guitars. This is Mike Pyron, by the way.
Oh, yeah. I love that
guy. What a great guy. Character. And he turns out that previous life had a career as a musician.
Yeah.
And it was and played shows routinely and stuff like that. I was like, wow, who would have thought?
That's what I'm saying, man. It's just... And did you know, he studied physics in college?
Yes. He's incredible.
He's such an intelligent guy. And when you look at him, he looks like a wizard, first of all. He's like this kind of small, old man.
Yes.
Very big character.
5'2".
5'2", but I mean... when he's on your job site, he's there.
115 pounds.
Yeah. But that long gray beard. I'm telling you, he looks like a wizard.
Great.
And he's so vastly intelligent, especially when it comes to carpentry, hardware. I mean, this guy's done it all, seen it all, experienced a lot throughout his life. And that's what I'm saying. That's the kind of stuff that's really cool is, all the things that have impacted him throughout his life to, put him in the job
spot,
that he's in now.
The spot today.
Yeah. And all the cool things that he brings to the job site. And that's what makes him him. And that's what makes him so amazing.
Yeah.
So that's...
He's the only carpenter I've ever worked with that we've talked about cosine when trying to find the angle that a beam was supposed to go on a wall. I was like, wow, I'm really dusting off the geometry lessons here.
Man, I wish I still knew how to do all that.
Oh,
but
it's been too long for sure.
Yeah. And I think it's cool. I was thinking about this the other day, construction, you get to meet and interact with a lot of different people day to day. And it's how can we best impact these people's lives even outside of the job?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you're Christian. I'm Christian as well. And it's often something that I think about, how can we use this opportunity where we're interacting with with a lot of different people, some of which, might be some shady characters mixed in there.
Here and there. Oh yeah.
Some,
as with any job.
Some challenging people, I guess, to put it kindly. It's like, how can we best use this project to make a positive impact on people?
Yeah.
In their personal lives.
Yeah.
Because you get to interact with people. It's not just, most of the time, it's not just a one interaction and you're done. I mean, it's spread out, over weeks or months even, that you get to have an impact on somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. A couple things I've thought about that is the, breadth of different people that we come in contact with on a job site, so from, the laborer, all the way to the owner.
Yeah.
You have wide range of life experience, just kind of perception of the world, economic status, social status.
Yep.
All those different things. And even within the trades, you have, some trades are kind of like blunt instrument tools, it's just like throw manpower at it, you know, and other ones come in and they're much more surgical, kind of highly technical. And so, you just get this, and throughout the project, you're weaving in, so many different people, and you really, that's one of the things I love about the construction is you get to see, kind of a large swath of different people, all within one little job site.
Exactly.
Run around doing their different things.
Yeah, exactly. You went to a conference recently, didn't you?
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about that?
Yes, would love to give that a shout out. It was called Winter Studio. It was a conference held by a nonprofit called 100-Fold Studio out of Montana. So it's been happening. Gosh, I don't know. I want to say they've been doing it for somewhere between 5 and 10 years, and it's been. I've gotten to go the past couple of years, and it's kind of centered around architects, designers, and kind of faith-centered topics. And so you get people from all over the country who come in, and we've got, I would say the vast majority of them are architects, but you get some engineers in there, you get some designers, and some builders, and even some actually people on the real estate and development side too. And just spend a weekend talking about their sphere and how their faith interacts with that, and either the issues that they have, and really just opportunity to kind of encourage each other. Yeah. And it was really great.
How many people go to that?
I think this past one had maybe 60.
60?
Yeah. So it's not super big.
Is that big or small in comparison to past ones? I mean,
yeah, I think that's pretty typical. I think it's been slowly growing.
Yeah.
This past year they had it in Nashville, which I think helped. Oftentimes it's been in Montana. It's a difficult spot to get to.
Yeah.
And but they've started moving it around location wise. It happens every spring. Okay. And highly recommend it. We can put a link to it in the
I'd love to. I'm very interested in it. That's really cool.
One of the great things about it is kind of like last episode, talking with Brooke, there was similar deal where it's a different range of people. So you have people who are towards the end of their career. You have some people just up and coming, starting to either run their own practices or, kind of qualified, high producing project managers, and you have beginning, just emerging professional.
Yeah. And
it's really cool to rub shoulders with people across that. And there were some panels, in particular one for emerging professionals, and just getting to hear their thoughts, what their experiences is like, and yeah, I really appreciated that. That was really cool.
But it all ties back to like your faith, right?
100%.
So what I don't know what issues are there? I mean,
yeah,
as far as being Christian or having, Christian values and, being an architect.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Great question. One of the things that, I think architecture is kind of known for this of kind of, designer in ivory tower, very artistic. This is the way the world should be, kind of isolated, doing the thing. And there's some pieces of that are necessary and good. I think you need a little bit of hubris to kind of, dream and say, this is what it should be, but that can kind of permeate through the industry in a negative way of, can kind of create toxic cultures of my idea is the best, and just kind of a power struggle within organizations. And Christian faith is very countercultural to that, of really emphasizing things like humility, and that actually my purpose is not for myself, but it's actually to serve others,
right?
Serve God.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the issues that is talked about of, okay, how do we do that in a way that, you're, working with others in your firms, and would you have this different attitude and kind of, working together within that can be tricky.
Yeah. It seems like most architects are that, very
prima donna.
Yeah. Prima donna, artsy. Yeah. Kind of high on their own farts, if you will, to put it bluntly. But yeah, I mean, that's interesting. I've never, you had mentioned this, conference to me a few weeks ago, and I kind of been mulling it around a little bit. And it's like, well, what are some of the issues that are faced, architects face who are Christian? And so I'm glad you kind of, lay it all out there, because, yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of good ones out there, and I think, conferences just in general are a great time to, be able to talk about things outside the day-to-day workplace. I gave the example of the emerging professionals. They were asking questions, about their career, and saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. These are steps I'm taking, but is this okay? Is this what I should be doing? And, and I think being around other people who have the same values as you, that creates a safe space to ask those questions and think about and process those things. And also, the later in life people, I mean, a huge issue for particularly, small businesses is, as say a principal or an owner is retiring, okay, what does he do with that business? And for a lot of older architects, that's a big question, and they want to do that well.
Yeah.
They want to, hand off with the hard work that they've built to someone else, whether that's either selling it, through a transaction, or raising up, employees on the inside of their organization. And so how do you do that in a way that's, kind of dignifying the people coming after you? It's not just transactional.
Yeah.
And,
that's good.
And how do your values show within that?
Yeah.
Those are also, just some of the things that have been talked about as well.
Yeah. And I wanted to kind of tie this back to what you mentioned about construction being a service industry. And I don't know if a lot of people think of architecture, design, and construction as a service industry.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, when you think about it, I mean, everything's a service industry, or at least it should,
in some way.
In some way. But construction very much so. And it's like when you start thinking about service, like what does it mean to serve? you know, and we were talking about this the other day at church, actually, and they had a, you know, serving was the topic. And, you know, what the pastor said was service is a fruit of love, you know? So when you love your spouse, your wife or your husband, or you love your kids, you want to show them love, you know, you do that by serving them. Yeah. And that's kind of this, you know, very Christ-like behavior. I mean, Christ was known, I mean, for being a servant of his disciples, right? Yeah. He wasn't the guy at the top of the pyramid.
100%.
Giving out orders and saying,
first shall be last, last shall be first.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, go do this and you know, I'm God and I'll strike you down kind of thing. Like it was very much like, first will be last and last will be first. So it's like, if you want to be great, you put yourself last. Yeah. And you put the needs of others ahead of your own. So that's kind of what it means to serve. And it's like, so when you carry that over into, you know, construction or whatever industry that you're in, it's like, what does that look like if you want to show somebody else love, like one of your coworkers or,
oh dude, that's a great question,
or a subcontractor. Yeah. You want to show them love. You can show them love by being of service to them. And, I mean, that can take the form of, you know, many different ways. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of this whole idea of, you know, build different. If we want to kind of go back into that, and you know, part of setting yourself apart from others is, you know, running your project or running your business in such a way that it's, like you said, it's not transactional. It's service.
So I'll give you a great example of that, and I think this one is crucial to what you're talking about, okay, if we're built different, we have a different attitude about our work, and you're talking about love being part of your work, right? Yeah. How do you care for the people around you? A huge part of that, I think, is transparency. So often, so there's one kind of attitude, which I would say is kind of a default attitude of adversarial relationship, like say with your subcontractors. So you're not transparent about costs of things, and you're trying to take advantage of them through, you know, locking them in at certain labor rates, or not giving them all the information that's needed, or you know, saying the budget is this for you know, a certain you know, bucket of work, and then changing it later, or things like that. Yeah. And the kind of the crux of that, or the belief behind that, is that this is what's best for me. I'm going to get the most money out of this situation. And at the end of the day, my profit is what matters most. Well, what you're talking about is completely opposite of that. Yeah. And the fear and fear can creep in with that, because, well, what if I'm not making as much money then? Or, you know, basically what you're saying is, hey, I'm going to be transparent and work with the contractor, the subcontractors, trades, and we're going to work as a team and be transparent. And that's tricky. It's definitely challenging.
Do you have to fight on the subcontractor's behalf sometimes?
100%. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I actually had a meeting with the trade earlier this week, where I was actually kind of getting on to them about it. I was saying, guys, this was over some change orders. So they had these, they had about $10,000 worth of change orders they brought to me. And I wasn't paying them. And they came to me, you know, all mad. They said, Michael, why are you not paying these? And I said, guys, I need you to come, and I need you to talk with me about these before I pay them, because what's going to happen is I'm going to submit these to the owner, and for me to be able to go to bat for you and say, hey, these are legitimate, we need this extra money for X, Y, and Z. I need to know what you're seeing in these, why, I need the story behind it because initially there was an agreement. Hey, this is the work, scope of work, blah, blah, blah. But now that I have the bill in my hand, I need to be able to take that to the owner and say, hey, this is right. This is why we need the extra money.
Right.
And that can be easier said than done.
It's tricky sometimes being a project manager because you kind of have your foot in both worlds. Like your purpose is to really to be a good steward of the client's money and to fight on their behalf.
Right. But
in the same token, you kind of sometimes have to talk with the client and fight on the subcontractor's behalf.
100%.
So sometimes it's tricky to navigate that and figure out. But I think what you did is right, is bringing them in and saying, hey, let's talk about this. I'm not just going to approve this, willy nilly.
Yep.
Because, again, you're trying to be a good steward of the funds that the client has given you.
Yeah.
So, it's hard to navigate both things.
Very
wear both hats, but
it's also rewarding by the same token of, you get to, at least for me, you get to go, okay, like there's a lot more confidence, at least for me, whenever I know that the owner knows what I'm doing, that I have this money and I'm spending it in these ways. And when the trade that I'm working with knows what their scope of work is and what they should and what they're going to get paid for it. And I find that the trust goes through the roof whenever we have that, those two things happening.
Yeah.
And they're never happening simultaneously, right? Because it's not possible for the owner to be aware of all the things happening in real time. It's actually not ideal. You don't want that to be happening because that's too much information for the owner to be
and that's not what you're there to do.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, if they wanted to build their own house, they could easily build their own house.
They would build their own house, right? Exactly. But wouldn't be hiring me.
They don't want.
These people have lives, and they're like, "Don't give me all that headache."
Exactly.
But they want to be informed, so you want to go, okay, at whatever structure increment we set up, we're gonna tell you what's going on, and then you're bopping and weaving in the middle of that from scope to scope. Okay, here's what we're going to do here. Here's what we're going to do there.
Yeah.
It actually, going back to what you were talking about service, and it's really, you're really being a steward of their resources.
Yeah.
You're going, okay, these are the places we're going to send it, and we're going to use it this way and that way, and using your expertise to go, this is the best way to get this done. And there's ton of dignity in that. And also when you're from a spiritual lens, that is, being a steward is really central to the Christian faith of God gave us this soul. He gave us this body for just a short amount. We're not here for that long. What are we going to do with it?
It's true.
There's this famous story in the Bible that talks about that, about the talents, or money, where God gives these different guys money, and different amounts, and God, people do different things with them, and God rewards those who takes what was given to them and
increases,
makes
it,
it better.
multiplies it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And man, I love that and I don't know, I hope we're multiplying. All right. I hope that's what I'm doing. Yeah. That's what I aspire to do.
Well, certainly, from the client's perspective, I think in the end, the product that they're getting is a multiplication of their, the money that they've given you and their time. What they're getting in the end of it is an investment that hopefully, brings them a lot of joy and happiness and fulfillment, but also, in the future could benefit not just them, but maybe their kids and grandkids.
Yeah. gosh, I would love to do a little bit deeper dive study on just kind of some of the value that that people get from their buildings and quantifying that. You know, we had a house that we finished maybe two or 3 years ago or something like that, and the owners we're super thrilled with it, and I think they got a call from someone from some real estate agent saying, hey, you know, I represent, you know, so and so blah blah, and they want to buy your house that you just finished building and name the price. They'll pay anything for it. Mm-hmm. And the owners, of course, weren't interested. I said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But we just spent all this money building this house. But name your price. Wow. I mean, they could have turned that around and they could have made money on it.
They sure could have.
Now, is that every situation? No. But I think there's a really interesting... It would be really interesting to see more data about the things that we build and how those, you know, what happens when you invest into the built environment.
Yeah, long term.
Yeah.
What else you got? What else is going on in your world?
Well, I wanted to make sure we closed the loop on the conversation about this last 50 episodes, and
well, what are you? I want to know your thoughts really on coming on board and wanting to join up.
Yeah, baby. Yeah, I think there's been a couple of episodes that stand out to me, and even in just the past couple about. And I really want to explore as we're talking with people about being built different, particularly in the trades, what's kind of developing right now? What's the new pieces of the industry? Like, for example, we talked with Ricardo Gomez a couple of episodes ago.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of a building technology side, which is really exciting. And I think there's more and more information out there about new building technologies. I mean, there's a lot of really exciting things happening. For example, the Build Show, you know, they do a great job of highlighting some of that.
They do.
But some of the things I don't think are talked about as much are some of the techniques of the way buildings are being put together.
Sure.
And particularly houses. Right? That's our kind of world, and how that's changing, and so yeah, I'm excited to kind of explore that a little bit more as we talk about building different. And I think that a lot of that comes down to the people that we're working with, and some of the changes and shifts that are happening there as well.
I'd love to further dive into those topics for sure. I mean, you could probably talk all day about, different technologies, different building systems, different methodologies and means, of putting a house together.
Yeah.
There's thousands of different ways to go about doing it. So yeah, I'm all on board with that. And, how do we get a new generation of young folks, younger than us, to be interested in construction? Because it seems like, I keep hearing this labor shortage that you keep hearing that thrown around. There's a labor shortage, or skilled labor, I guess I should say. Where, what is it? The average age is, is dropping, meaning you have some of the older folks retiring, but not enough of the younger folks coming in. Or did I have that backwards?
Yeah, that backwards.
The average age is going...
Average age is increasing.
That's right. I had that backwards. So, yeah, I mean, that has this trend of, a lot of the older generation is leaving the workforce and not enough young people are coming in to take their place.
Guys, building stuff is awesome.
It is
I'll
awesome.
say that for everyone out there. Come build stuff with us. Come on. It's so awesome.
Yeah.
It's literally the most fun thing ever.
And there's, and like I was saying, I mean, there's so many different things you could get into. It's not,
Yeah.
You can be artistic. You can be, you can have interests in different things and still have an impact in the construction industry.
100%.
It's not just digging ditches and
Yeah.
installing roofs and middle of summer. There's more to it than that. It is hard work. It is extremely stressful.
Yeah.
You almost have to be a little crazy in some ways to get involved. It's high stress, but it's very fun. It's very rewarding. You gotta be tough, man. And I want to go back to the very first episode that we did with old Adrian Fudge. And that, what was that? I'm going to pull up this quote.
While you're doing that, I've got a quick story. Last week I met with a supplier and craftsman out of San Antonio, Adrian Cavallini. He runs the Cavallini glass shop down there. They do all the stained glass for a lot of churches and other buildings. We're working with them right now, and they his company is family owned and operated business. About I think they said a little under 20 employees, and they've been operating since 1953.
Wow.
So over 70 years and multiple generations. I was trying to remember. I think he's either the third or fourth generation.
Wow.
And I think his son is the fourth generation, maybe third generation. Anyways, it was so cool to hear them talk about just the legacy of going through, and I know a huge barrier for younger people working in the industry is just the perception of, gosh, like maybe my dad did this, or my uncle did this. Like I want to go do something new and exciting and different. And there's so many cool new opportunities in the industry because it's growing.
Yeah.
Today. So just explore that. Like I just want to tell the audience out there, there are so many great opportunities out there, and it really gets me excited to see these businesses who have been around such a long time, because those are gonna stay there, right? Like AI isn't gonna be creating stained glass panels, right? Like somebody's got to go literally make that thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's in terms of like a job that you can have that's stable, that you're going to have for a long time, that's always going to be valuable to society. I mean, the construction just has a plethora of those.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so I found the quote. So it's the Man in the Arena by Theodore Roosevelt. So this was our, going back to the very first episode, we read this quote and discussed it at length. But so the quote goes, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the door of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error or shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat."
Ooh, that's good.
Meaning, it takes some pretty brave, strong, hard men to achieve great things. And that's what we need in construction. You need grit, you need bravery, You know, you need somebody who's just not scared of making mistakes. I mean, if you listen to what that quote says, it's not the critic who counts. Like, there's always going to be people who are pissed off and upset and who want to be naysayers and tell you you're made a mistake and make fun of you and say terrible things. But it's not the critic who counts, right? It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter what they think. Just go out there and achieve great things. Just do it. You know, it's hard work and it requires a lot of sacrifice. But in the end, you're going to be, you know, towards the end of that quote, it's, you know, you're going to know victory, right? You're either going to achieve victory or, you know what? At least you tried. You're not going to be one of these idiots who's just standing around doing nothing and, you know, being a critic.
Yeah.
You at least tried. You may have failed, but you tried, or you're going to be victorious. So it's like, you know, that's what we need. We need good, honest, strong, hard men who can get out there and do some amazing things in the construction industry. So I'm not afraid to say that.
Well, no, I think you're right on the money in terms of, gosh, character matters. You know,
it does.
Character matters, and don't be afraid to try.
Yeah,
like that's ubiquitous. That's across the. That doesn't necessarily apply to the construction industry. That's everywhere, and that's a huge barrier for people coming into the industry because so many people are, you know, grew up in an environment where what was on their phone mattered the most. What people said through social media mattered the most.
Yeah.
But I love that quote that you're saying, that you read, and what you're saying now of, no, that's not the most important thing.
No, it's not. Yeah, I mean, you got to live in the real world. Can't, you know, your life doesn't exist on the internet or on social media. I mean, it's, you know, if you want to achieve greatness, I mean, look at, you know, you can use Elon Musk as an example. I mean, that might be cliche, but if you look at, you know, all the things that he's achieved, you know, he doesn't let anything get in his way.
Yeah.
You know, and if there's an obstacle, you figure out how to overcome it and move on. Yeah. I mean, that's how you send rockets to Mars, I guess, is you just, you know, you're just knocking down barriers and you're getting things out of the way and you make it happen. But there's no way to go about doing it. Sometimes you look foolish. You're going to be made fun of. You might look like the newbie who doesn't know what the heck he's doing. And it's true. You are going to be a newbie who doesn't know what he's doing, but that's okay. 100%. Everybody starts there. And those are the lessons that you learn that advance your career and that make you better in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, heck, you relish those moments where you get to learn, and yeah, you look kind of silly, but you know what? You learned a valuable lesson, and that's the most important part.
Yeah.
So let's get it.
Let's get it.
All right.
Well, that's all she wrote.
I think so. Appreciate your time, buddy.
You betcha.
All right.
As always.
See you on the next one.
Deal.